Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this TUMI Networks webinar titled Creating a Walking and Cycling Culture in African Cities. My name is Tumi Tran, and I am a Senior Officer EcoMobility at ICLE World Secretariat, based in Bonn, Germany. And I will be facilitating this session today, along with my colleague Yichen Zhang. First of all, a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us today. We hope that the next 90 minutes will be a thought-provoking introduction into creating and promoting a culture for non-motorized transport in African cities. For those who are less familiar with our organization, ICLE Local Governments for Sustainability is the leading global network of over 1,500 cities, towns, and regions committed to building a sustainable future. ICLE's regional office in Africa is based in Cape Town. ICLE Africa has 111 city members and works in 24 countries and has currently active projects in more than 120 cities across the African continent. This is the second webinar of the TUMI's African Network, and it is organized by ICLE in collaboration with GIZ within the framework of the TUMI Transformative Urban Mobility Initiative, funded by BMZ, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. This webinar follows on the first TUMI Network webinar held in January 2019, focused on improving walkability in African cities, where we learn about the importance of designing streets for safety, accessibility, and comfort, and return on investment in NMT. In many African cities, non-motorized transport, namely walking and cycling, is the predominant mode of transport, representing over 40% of daily commutes. And in cities like Addis Ababa, this exceeds 50%. Despite this, non-motorized transport is still not only marginally recognized. This lack of recognition is manifested in general lack of consideration for pedestrians by motorists, and the lack of dedicated and safe infrastructure. The lack of NMT awareness is also resulting in a culture that NMT use is negative, not desired, and only for the poor. Today's webinar aims to bring experts together to share their thoughts and real-life experiences in shaping a positive NMT culture in order to assist cities from Africa and further afield in implementing sustainable modes of transport that are accessible to all. As for the lineup for today's webinar, we have three wonderful speakers. The first one will be Rebecca Campbell from Open Streets, Cape Town, building a movement of people taking ownership of streets as public space. Then the second speaker will be Cyprian Mitchell from Critical Mass Nairobi, who will speak about creating awareness for a cyclist-friendly city, one ride at a time. And the last speaker will be Beatrice Chang from ICLE, shaping the future of urban mobility, 1 month, 1 neighborhood, EcoMobile. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. To ensure that we manage time efficiently, questions will be posed to the speakers at the end of the webinar. After the presentations, we will have ample time for questions, about 20-30 minutes. And we would like to ask you to type your questions in the dedicated tab of the GoToWebinar platform. You should see a box labeled questions, and we would like to ask you to type your questions there. Please keep the questions to the point so that we can move through them easily and swiftly. And do not forget to put in brackets the name of the speakers you would like to direct the question to. This webinar will also be recorded, and we will make the recording available for those that would like to refer to it afterwards. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to the first speaker, Rebecca Campbell, and from Open Streets and Cape Town. And Open Streets Cape Town was also the winner of the TUMI challenge in 2018. And I'm sure that we will hear more about it in a few minutes. So I will pass it on to Rebecca.
Great. Good afternoon from Cape Town, everybody, and thank you so much to ICLE for hosting us, and of course, thank you to me for allowing us as Open Streets Cape Town to become part of this network. I'm really excited to connect with some new street enthusiasts today. So hello, everybody. And I'll just share some information about what we've been doing in Cape Town, and I'm really excited to hear what questions come up. So some of you might be familiar with the Open Streets movement in Cape Town, which has been going for a few years now, since 2013. And it's something that was inspired by and modeled on the Ciclovia program in Colombia. So it's been a citizen-driven movement to host car-free days across Cape Town. And we're very excited to be preparing for our 20th Open Streets Day in a few weeks' time at the end of this month. So we've been a movement of people that's been growing progressively and started out just as a few citizens, founded by Marcelo Guerrero Casas from Colombia originally, and it's grown to really be able to reach across different parts of the city and to connect with residents and other parties to reimagine streets together. And we've really tried to focus on creating a new kind of public imagination for the potential that streets can have in the city. And we've invited other people to use the platform that we create. So we organize the Car Free Day, and we've really tried to connect with as many other partners as possible, which ranges from individual residents to government departments and the private sector to really maximize this opportunity. So seeing as the theme for today's webinar is around walking and cycling and thinking about non-motorized transport, sustainable mobility, I'll start off just sharing some of the experiences of how we've managed to promote different modes of transport and really just create a space where residents can experience other options. For those of you who know Cape Town, the city is incredibly congested, and the public transport system is in a really bad state. So the options for transport are very limited, and there are a lot of captive users, and yeah, there's a real need for people to have other options as well. And although the geography means that it's not possible for everyone to use a bicycle or to walk, there are a lot of people who would benefit hugely from being able to try out other modes. So through the Open Streets Days, we've seen that it's really a space for the public to experience modes that they might not be familiar with, and especially for children. And we've seen a lot of benefit watching children and how children experience streets, how they take over a space that becomes safe during the Open Streets Day, and really kind of respond to having that space to be able to move around freely and to learn things like learning to ride a bicycle or skateboarding, that sort of thing. And once again, for those of you who know Cape Town, it's a city where a lot of children are growing up in areas where their reality of streets and the kind of streets that they're seeing are places of violence, places that don't have a lot of opportunity, and are hostile environments for any kind of non-motorized transport or for people to be able to move around freely. And so at the Open Streets Days, we've seen how it's a space where children can start to see other options, and a lot of these kids aren't able to go outside and play freely. Yeah, it's a really harsh environment that they're growing up in, and so the Open Streets Days is a kind of special occasion where they get to see a different way of how streets could function. And then I'll just also talk about a couple of the other projects that we've done. I think because a lot of you would be familiar with the Open Streets Days, I don't want to focus too much on that, and maybe it will come up in the questions. But we've focused on trying a lot of different experiments and really trying different ways of promoting alternative modes of transport and ways of getting around. So one of these has been through organizing bike buses. So that's a group cycle ride where people ride to a destination together. I'm sure when we hear from Supreme, we'll hear what's happening in Nairobi with critical mass. And in Cape Town, there have been quite a few different cycling projects, and we've managed to work quite closely with partners and build on the work that others have done as well to promote opportunities for people to get together and yeah, just to be able to form communities where you can share experience and tips and things like that. I think as with a lot of African cities, cycling is not always easy. You're kind of fighting your way through the city, and it often feels like it's a survival type activity. And so the more we've managed, yeah, the more we've seen people connecting, the more likely it is that they start to adopt cycling as a part of their daily routine, and even if it's just for a couple of trips a week. So when we do open streets days, we will organize a bike bus, sometimes from multiple origins, to get to the open streets day. And then last year we also piloted a campaign or a project to run weekly bike buses from different parts of the city into the central business district. And yeah, this work that we've been doing with the cycling has been largely possible due to partnering. So we have some really strong local partners, the Pedal Power Association, Bicycling Empowerment Network, Bicycle South, and big support from the WWF Nedbank Green Trust, a local trust. And for us, that's been key, that we're a very small organization. We're a small nonprofit organization, and partnering with others has allowed us and hopefully them as well to make, yeah, to kind of make have more of a presence in the city around cycling. And then thinking of being on foot and not on a bicycle, we've been doing something since the beginning. One of the first activities that we tested out was something called Talking Streets. And so very simple, it's going for a walk, usually quite a small group of people, because the idea is to have a discussion. So to be walking in a street environment and at the same time have a sort of a meeting or a discussion, and to respond to the environment around us and look at different aspects of the street design and the experience as pedestrian. And at the moment, we're doing Talking Streets walks at Open Streets Days, and we found that it's a really nice way to go a bit deeper, because the Open Streets Days often, you know, it's one day. It can be a once-off experience, and doing something like Talking Streets, gathering together local residents, sometimes government officials, or kind of engineers, professionals, academics. It's a way to start to look at what kind of permanent changes might be possible, and yeah, how we can see some more consistent interventions happening. And then I must also mention that a big part of our journey in Cape Town with Open Streets Days has been possible thanks to the City of Cape Town. So we've managed to develop a partnership with the city, and yeah, really try to see how we can utilize and take advantage of the capacity that the city already has to be able to do these kind of experimentation projects. And there's been, yeah, a lot of endorsement and appetite to support this program. That, yeah, it's a way for the city to connect with residents, and because, you know, we're a small, flexible, and kind of agile organization, we managed to really see impact by creating the platform, and then creating that connection between the city's different departments and being able to bring that to various parts of the city. But I must really highlight that I think the only way that this movement has seen so much success in Cape Town, and the fact that we're now going on to our 20th Open Streets Day, and this season we've spread to 5 different parts of the city, it's that we've managed to get a lot of different parts of the city to take ownership of the program. And what's interesting is that this is one of the things that we saw in Colombia, that the reason the Ciclovia program is still going over 40 years later is because of the level of public support and ownership that residents feel of that regular. So there it's every Sunday that they do car-free network. And yeah, we've really seen how as soon as the concept of open streets is tested in an area, immediately people jump on the platform, and it becomes something that so many different interest groups, so many different types of organizations can get involved in. And yeah, whether it's a local school or other NGOs, even local government departments, it's a platform that has many different uses and potential benefits. So that's, for us, it's been really exciting to see how as soon as we put it out there, there's real kind of buy-in from other people. And especially, I'll just go back to this photograph. I wanted to mention volunteers. One of the biggest parts of our operations is volunteer involvement, and yeah, especially young people in Cape Town, there's a real appetite to get involved in something that's exciting, it's connecting people, and really kind of offering a different way of experiencing the city. Before I wrap up, I hope I haven't gone over time. To me, I'm assuming that you will cut me off if I go too long. I also just wanted to mention that so some of the other work that we've done, and we've done all sorts of weird and wonderful things. We've done a lot of experimentation. A lot of the things that have been really successful, as I mentioned earlier, it's the partnering, it's the connecting with other organizations that, it might be a road safety advocacy group, children's organizations, that sort of thing. And what we've managed, what we find ourselves often bringing to the table is that kind of action-orientated, experimental way of doing things. But we've found a lot of power in those partnerships where we can bring something fun, but it's grounded in a much bigger campaign. And speaking of partnerships, recently, and I'm hoping, I can't see who the participants are in the webinar, but I'm hoping that some of our friends from the Open Streets Network are listening in. Last year in October, thanks to our TUMI grant, we were very fortunate to be able to host an Open Streets exchange in Cape Town. And you can just see on the right-hand side of this picture, that white document, that's the Open Streets toolkit that we've developed. And we spent a whole week going through the toolkit, hosting various sessions, workshops with 19 participants from 11 cities around Africa, and just sharing some of our experiences in Cape Town and hearing about what's happening in other cities, and looking at, what are the things that we can learn from each other, but then also what are the things that might be unique to a city, because we know that even within Cape Town, when we do open streets in different parts of the city, it never looks the same. Each area is different, and so obviously each of our cities is different and have different challenges and opportunities. So we had this experience in October, and we've now got a quite informal network of Open Streets champions, and we're really just thrilled to see how the concept has already taken off since October in some new cities. Seeing Open Streets Day starting to spread, and for us, what's really great about that is that we also get to learn again from experience in other places. So I'm very excited to hear any questions or comments about OpenStreet's experiences in other places around the continent. And to close off, I have 3 takeaway messages, very short. So my 3 takeaways would be: number 1, imagination; number 2, connection; and number 3, experimentation. And these 3 words for me are the things that have huge impact when we're trying to encourage more walking and cycling friendly cities and environments, including imagination, connection, and experimentation. Yeah, it goes a long way, even though it sounds a bit fluffy. And I'm sure there are others working on much more technical projects that, you know, we don't have a lot to offer in that space, but I would encourage anybody to consider those three words. So thank you for having me, and looking forward to hearing from the others.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, for the interesting presentation. And there are already a lot of questions coming in. I encourage everyone else to also type in the questions in the question box. And thank you also for the 3 takeaway: imagination, connection, is experimentation, and also for the variety of different open streets that can be created. Maybe a quick question before I hand it over to Cyprian would be, you make it sound so easy with all the partnerships and the volunteers, but I was wondering if it was a bit harder in the first open streets, and or the biggest challenge that you had in the first open streets, and how you overcome that. And
thank you for asking that question. Absolutely, yes. And I should have added that as a disclaimer in the beginning. It's very hard in such a short space of time to share all the challenges. And also, you know, I don't want to dwell too much on the challenges, because, you know, whatever we do, there will be challenges. But it has been a process with lots of obstacles and lots of having to keep pushing. We had to cancel an Open Streets Day once because we didn't get the event permit that's required here in Cape Town. We've had pushback in, you know, with some of the way that we planned an Open Streets Day, and we had to kind of rethink the plans. In terms of partnering, that's it's something that we keep working on. We haven't always got it right, but we found that just having that perseverance to kind of keep working on it, yeah, it's something that we're focusing on at the moment.
That's great. No, that's and maybe if I can make a follow-up question, is there any is there any specific partnership, or you mentioned it already maybe in your presentation, that has been particularly crucial in, let's say, making Open Street more easy to access or easier to organize for an NGO like you?
To answering that question, I think political buy-in has been really important. One of the things that happened early on is that the group of founders managed to get support from the mayor's office, and that really allowed them to launch the concept and to host the first Open Streets Day. And so, I would say that's one of the priorities, is to try and get a political champion early on in the process.
Thank you.
Yeah, but then to follow up on that, in terms of the kind of substance of the program and the impact of the actual Open Streets Days, it's local partnerships that are really important. And it's not, there isn't really one local partner. It's all the, on the ground, going to local schools, faith-based organizations, getting local sports clubs involved, and making sure that the process and the actual activity on the day is grounded in the local area.
Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca. I think that those are very big partners, the local community and also the a political leader. So we now move towards more critical mass and in Nairobi with Cyprian Mitchell. And she is a true cyclist, but also she works also for ITDP, the Institute for Transport and Development Policy. And I'm looking forward to hear more about critical mass and how we can create a more cyclist-friendly city. I hand over to you, Cyprian.
Hi, Tumi. Hi, everybody. My name is Cyprian, and first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on this wonderful discussion on how to create better walking and cycling culture in African cities. It's a discussion that is long overdue, something that we should have started talking about ages ago. So I will be talking about Critical Mass Nairobi and what we are doing, where we started from, and what we plan on doing in the future, and also what other cities can do to follow suit. So Critical Mass Nairobi basically is an initiative towards improving the quality and experience of cycling in Kenya. We started with Nairobi, but we hope to go beyond just Nairobi. We've had several interests from other cities to start having critical mass, not just in Nairobi, but in their cities as well. And our initial motivation for critical mass was being stuck in traffic. We got tired of being stuck in traffic, and the city, Nairobi, is very congested. So being stuck in traffic and the congestion, the pollution, all those factors made us want to find a different alternative of moving about. And so in 2014, a few cyclists met and thought, why not start riding around and hopefully get a lot more people to start cycling. So one of our goals is to create a paradigm shift in how people view and experience bicycles. Unfortunately, it is assumed that bicycles are a poor man's way of moving around, and it's been given a negative connotation. When you're seen riding a bicycle, you're either very poor or you just don't know how to enjoy your wealth. We also want to make cycling more enjoyable and attractive. Again, bicycles have been given a bad name, and we want to change that. And also through critical mass, we hope to make cyclists more visible, because we realized when we are in big groups, motorists tend to respect us and give us more room. And also this helps people to get more courage to start commuting to work or to school or wherever they want to go. And we also realized that there's so many people who had bicycles, but they don't use bicycles. They fell in love with bicycles when they were young, and then somehow they just stopped using bicycles. So we wanted people to start using their bicycles again. The other goal for critical mass is to explore opportunities for safer streets and favorable policies towards cyclists and bicycle use. And this we do through campaigns, dialogue, partnerships, various social media, conversations and campaigns. So we noted that bicycles or cyclists in general they are the least favored road users, and some of the policies that are supposed to protect cyclists actually do not protect cyclists or have completely forgotten cyclists in the conversation. You'd find that motorists have policies that favor them or protect them. Pedestrians also have policies and laws and bylaws that favor and protect them. But cyclists, in a weird way, seem to have been forgotten in that whole conversation. So through critical mass, we hope to start having these policies and laws and bylaws change, because we are a big group and we can start influencing change. So where did we start? We started in 2014, less than 10 cyclists, and this was done in the evening after work. You can see even the photos look like they were taken centuries ago. And this is where we are right now. We have grown to have a number that I can't even tell how many were, but the last critical mass we had more than 400 cyclists, which in Africa is a big number. It is very rare to see this many people, this many cyclists on the road, bearing in mind that our roads are not designed with bicycles in mind. So this is where we are, and we hope to even double or triple this number by the end of 2019. So how do we do it? How is it that this group has been able to move from less than 10 cyclists in late 2014 to more than 400 cyclists? So we make critical mass free and accessible to anybody, regardless of your background, your financial status, your age. It is free for anyone to attend. And we identify a convenient location to begin and end the ride. That way, we can have as many people join in as possible. We also have experienced marshals. Marshals are very important, especially on roads like ours, where motorists are still a little bit actually, they're quite aggressive. So we need cyclists who know how to handle motorists to ensure that other cyclists who are coming in, newbies and children, can feel safe and confident to come back again. The other thing is to be consistent. We ensure that it's every 2 months, or now we're going to do it every month. So the consistency of the event has made it popular, and people know that at the end of the month, they have something to look forward to. And we also have a few rules that make it possible for us to have this event. I mean, riding in Nairobi is risky in many ways, but with those rules, it has ensured that we have had very little incidences and we avoid risks at all costs. Our rides are not supported, and we tell people that, so they have to be safe. But we also ensure that the rules that we set have to be followed. Some of the rules are you have to follow traffic rules. Red in an intersection means stop. Whereas when we have cycle lanes, we try to use them, but unfortunately, some of the cycle lanes we have are not usable. But wherever we can, we use them. We try to maintain left lane whenever we can, but we have several rules that we try and follow. We also want to incur the least amount of expenses because critical mass is not sponsored. We do this because we want to create change. So we encourage people to come fully equipped with water, snacks, money, whatever they may need when they're riding with us. That way we don't have to feel burdened to organize this event. Otherwise it might start becoming challenging. However, seeing that our numbers have grown significantly, we may start looking for sponsorships to help support the ride and also make it more enjoyable for cyclists who come, and even those who can't afford, who can get something out of it. Another very important rule is to be friendly towards other road users and respect road users, pedestrians, motorists, hand-cut pushers. We want to have peaceful coexistence between us and other road users. We do not want conflict, because those are the same people we want to switch from driving to join us. So if we only create conflict, we will not be achieving our goal of having more people riding bicycles. So who are we? We are anyone and everyone. It doesn't matter if you're a young child, if you're somebody in your late 60s, 70s, 80s. We invite anybody, as long as you can ride a bicycle, as long as your bicycle is in a good state. We invite everyone, and our marshals are trained to be able to support anybody. That is me, now 9 months pregnant, and yeah, it's still, we make critical mass to be the safest possible way to ride around Nairobi. So we try to make critical mass fun, but we also want to pass messages when we are cycling. These are just some of the few printouts we make. We share information as much as we can. So another thing that we do during critical mass is to, share our experience as cyclists, because we do have this wonderful opportunity of going to different neighborhoods, and we experience the infrastructure that has been designed for cyclists. So through critical mass, we've been able to identify, and I don't want to say name and shame, but we share our experiences through photos. You see, these are some of the cycle tracks that have been designed for cyclists, but unfortunately, this kind of design makes it impossible for cyclists to actually use the cycle tracks. So, yeah. We've had several campaigns and partnerships. These are just some of the partnerships we've had. We've been fortunate to partner with the UN Habitat in several events. Also, the EU, we've had some events with the European Union and the county government of Nairobi as well. The last photo, you can see the governor of Nairobi flagging off one of our rides. And we've also had good support from the police whenever we request. But our goal with critical mass is to not always have police escort or outriders, because we want cyclists to learn how to use the roads without necessarily depending on the police. So that's where marshals come in, the trained cycling marshals. And we also find that whenever we have the police, sometimes it can be a little bit, they stop all the traffic, whereas we don't want traffic to be stopped. We just want to use the roads as normal as possible. Although we still appreciate their help, they come in handy. So some of the challenges we experience, of course, our roads are very busy, and sometimes we have conflict between us and other road users. But again, we try to maintain peaceful coexistence. We do not want to escalate the incidences. Our roads are not designed with cyclists in mind. Many roads in Kenya have no cycle tracks, have no bike lanes. And as you had seen in the previous slide, that our bike lanes or cycle tracks are not the best. They make it difficult for cyclists to actually use the infrastructure. Our intersections as well were not designed with cycling or bicycles in mind. Another challenge we have is our poorly maintained roads, potholes or overgrown grass and other things, and lack of cycling infrastructure, including parking facilities. So sometimes we want to ride to a certain destination, but we can't ride to that destination because there's nowhere to stop or to brake or to park the bicycles. Limited sources of funds, to organize bigger and greater critical masses. This we hope to start partnering with different organizations, companies, institutions, or individuals to help us get to where we want to get. Another challenge is limited access to quality and affordable bicycles and bicycle accessories. Unfortunately, bicycles are not the cheapest, and in as much as we want a lot of people to start cycling, as long as bicycles are not as affordable as they should be, not that many people can join in and make cycling part of their lives. So what are our future and some of our current plans? We plan on having our marshals trained in first aid. We want them to have first aid skills because with big numbers like 400 cyclists on a road, the risks do increase. So we want all our marshals to be able to know what to do in case of a crash, in case of an accident, in case of an injury. This is something we hope to work with AAR in Kenya and get our marshals to a point where in case of emergency, they will know what to do. Also have the marshals be trained on road safety rules. And not all cyclists know how to know the road safety rules. So we want to train them and ensure that they know what to do or how to handle other cyclists when riding. And all these things, the traffic rules, basic mechanical training and communication and interpersonal skills, we need all those things to ensure that critical mass is safe and secure for anybody coming. We want parents to trust us with their children, and we want newbies to trust us with themselves. Another thing we want to do is to explore more opportunities for partnerships. We want to have critical mass in other cities other than just Nairobi. Like I mentioned, we've had requests from other cities to start organizing critical mass in their cities. So that is one of the things we have in our pipeline. We also want to have more influence on policies, the laws and bylaws that affect cycling. Unfortunately, some of the policies we have are actually unfavorable to cycling and reduce or just have a negative impact on cycling. We want to have more campaigns and dialogues between ourselves as cyclists and cyclists and other groups. The other very important thing is to have critical mass be a way people can get jobs or like messengerial jobs, marshalling services, tour guides, mechanics, and cycling ambassadors. We found that we have so many people who can do so much, but the opportunity has just not been presented to them. So we hope to create some jobs through critical mass. So my conclusion, we need to build safe and accessible non-motorized transport infrastructure. And I say, I didn't just specify, I wasn't just limiting it to cycling, because we know if we do not provide good infrastructure for pedestrians, all these pedestrians will end up on the infrastructure for cyclists. So these two have to go hand in hand. We have to provide good facilities for pedestrians and cyclists, and regular campaigns, educate people on the importance of non-motorized transport, the health value, the impact non-motorized transport has on the environment, climate. We're complaining a lot about pollution in our cities, congestion in our cities, and we can easily show how bicycles and walking can help alleviate those problems. We want to have more impact on policies and laws that favor non-motorized transport. Equitable distribution of financial resources. We will, I don't know how we will go about this, but we will try and influence how financial resources are distributed, and also give tokens and reward to cities, companies, and organizations that promote or use non-motorized transport. So this one, we hope to start kind of rewarding, let's say, a mall that is allowing cyclists to park their bicycles in their compound by us buying more from them. So it's like give and take. We park our bicycles and then we shop in your premises. Another thing is change the narrative. Walking and cycling are not just for the poor. We need to make cycling more interesting and fun and accessible to everybody. That is it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cyprian. And a very interesting presentation. I think that you highlighted some of the points that are very important, like making cycling fun and changing the narrative. That despite the lack of infrastructure, it's good to get started from something, and let's say also from a small movement, and being consistent, basically. And I was wondering if, let's say, when you started small, did you see a change when you became so big, let's say, from the motorists or from the police or from the people that were maybe looking at you, like, or looking at the critical mass as if it was like, oh, what's happening here? Are they Tour de France, or are they, yeah, or are you crazy? Yeah, I was wondering if you have seen a change already, like it's already something like 4 or 5 years that you've been doing critical mass. So I was wondering if you have experienced the change and how, to which extent.
Well, when we began, we looked like mad people, the crazy people who are willing to risk their lives to cycle in the crazy, chaotic traffic in Nairobi. But with time, we've started feeling like the air has changed. People have become, motorists, even the police, the traffic police, have become more aware of us and very welcoming towards us. We have a lot of motorists who see us and they're like, oh, please tell me, how can I join you? How can I join this movement? Is it something political? And we try to tell them, no, it's not political. It's just a group of people who want to enjoy the streets, their public space. So yes, we've had some positive change, from looking like mad, confused people to actually looking like people who are pushing for something that is important.
Thank you. That's also encouraging for those that want to start a critical mass movement in their own city. And so then I will move on to the last panelist. Thank you very much also to Cyprian for the interesting presentation. And if you have any questions, type them into the questions box. So there will be more or less half an hour time for questions afterwards. So don't worry, we are like clustering them together and making sure that the majority of the question will be attended. And then the last speaker is Beatrice Chung, and she will speak about the EcoMobility flagship program that we have. So I hand over to Beatrice.
Thanks to me. Good afternoon, everyone from Bonn, Germany. Really glad to be part of this panelist to share about what EcoMobility does in Africa in creating a walking and cycling culture. So today I'll be focusing on shaping the future of urban mobility, one mind, one neighborhood, EcoMobile. Before we speak further, we can talk about what is eco-mobility. This is a term coined by ICLE that speaks about prioritizing walking, cycling, use of public transport, shared vehicle, and if personal mobility is needed, then light electric vehicles is encouraged. And it's not just important to provide them, but it's also key to provide them in an integrated and connected manner. And so how can we show the importance of eco-mobility to people? And one of ICLE's approach is Eco-Mobility World Festival. It is also a concept that was pioneered by ICLE to showcase 1 month of eco-mobility in one neighborhood. The first festival was in Suwon, South Korea in 2013, continuing in Johannesburg in 2015, and the last that we had was in Kaohsiung, Taiwan in 2017. So Johannesburg is the first and only African city to have hosted a Eco-Mobility World Festival that was done together with a dialogue. And today I will be focusing more on Johannesburg, where we actually presented 1 month of eco-mobility in Sandton, which is a CBD area for Johannesburg. And this was co-organized with the city of Johannesburg with ICLE. So why was Sandton selected? And one of the key reasons that the city selected Sandton CBD was to inspire change at the most important business district of Johannesburg, where it is also a prime office location with many corporate headquarters for the region. So there are many commuters entering Sandton by private car. So at the time of before the festival, they did an estimation where there were over 75,000 cars entering Sandton daily. And there's so many commuters entering Sandton as well. And all this result in crippling congestion problem, especially during peak hours, slowing buses and minibuses. So this means that those who are already using public transport and contribute to the list to congestion also experience the burden of congestion, which is why the city decided to use a festival approach to kickstart the process of decongesting the CBD area by enabling behavioral change from private car use, promote walking and cycling as part of a healthy and sustainable lifestyle, increase patronage of the BRT, the train, and also the metro bus. But as you can imagine, demonstrating 1 month of eco-mobility, discouraging the use of private vehicles, is a huge task that requires strong leadership, partnership, lots of coordination with people, individual even, especially when Sandton is such an important business district. So how did the city actually do it, and what was the approach of the city using the principles of eco-mobility? I think the first thing that we talked about just now also was changing narrative. So the city came out with the phrase change the way you move. It is quite a catchy phrase, which became a key narrative and marketing campaign, because people will not be willing to accept something that's so drastic if there's no clear understanding of the concept and how it's going to be implemented. There will be many guessing and rumors going around. So all these are explained over traditional and social media on the idea of eco-mobility and the festival. And many local activists were also mobilized to explain the concept of eco-mobility, partnering with citizens and residential groups as well. And all this led to a 1 month urban reality lab, which is during the festival month in October 2015. And a key thing that actually what we are showcasing is how a CBD can go eco-mobile. So various mobility interventions were made to encourage people to walk, to cycle, to use public transport through the creation of transport management plan. And this is one of the key things that was produced as a result of months of consultation. So as part of this plan, there were some streets that were closed in the CBD, introduction of managed priority lanes for public transport, installing of bike lanes connecting the neighboring Alexandra and Sandton, which is also part of the Corridors of Freedom Master Plan, which was launched in 2013 to overcome spatial inequality between the two areas. And because transport is a main thing, or is one of the gists of the Corridors of Freedom Master Plan, the mayor at that time wanted to use the festival to shed light and to bring awareness to people. So this is one of the big things that was done during the festival. So traffic flows were restructured, park and ride facilities were created. So all these things are part of the transport interventions to influence people how they move during the festival month. The next thing that we had was also to organize an international dialogue with mayors and international transport experts throughout the world. They were brought here to have this 5 days dialogue and to deliberate on the different thematic areas throughout this dialogue as well. And there was also a mayor's EcoMobility ride that was organized. So it's not just about talking about it in the conference hall, but it's also demonstrating to people on the street as well. The next thing that we have was also to organize a month-long program and events so that people can experience space differently. Public space were open to people. Weekend, especially during the weekends where it attracted more people to the street. There was also an exhibition going on, but you can imagine this 1 month of transport interventions, activities, dialogues. It was a huge task for the city to organize. So what made it happen is to have a very extensive consultation process before the festival and during the festival. So more than 80 stakeholder consultations were actually organized throughout the preparation and implementation phase. And the city had to be very proactive to identify the problems, the needs of the people, and improvise traffic management plans to ensure that the operations of the companies there are not compromised without losing the spirit of eco-mobility. I think this is one of the key targets of the city with the people. And some of the things that were organized was breakfast with the executive mayor that was attended by many people, really drilling and getting the city to converse with the people. And even during the festival, there was this Mayor's Inviso, which was one of the highlights as well. It was a public dialogue with the executive mayor, and it was broadcasted live. So including these communities, businesses, corporations to these public conversations was really important to assess what are the trade-offs, what are the compromises that can be made or that cannot be made, what are the expectations from the community, and how can we calibrate that, and also envisioning where can we go together in the future. So all these were part of the very long participatory process. I'll just show you some of the impressions during the festival. You can see some of the different transport interventions that are here, how streets are used differently, people who are on the streets, the mayor's eco-mobility ride, the parade that was also organized. So what are the impacts of the festival after this hard work? Of course, it attracted many participants and visitors from different parts of the world to visit Johannesburg, especially Sandton. But what was distinguishing Johannesburg's festival from the other festivals was the extent of openness and discussion on the festival on social media platforms or traditional platforms. It was incredible, especially on Twitter, where it also served as an indicator of people's opinions about the festival. People were talking about it, debating about it, and some of the key aspects that were brought up or highlighted was that the possibility of walking, being able to use the street differently again, and how people also are open towards dedicated public transport lanes and the security measures that were undertaken during the festival month. In general, the analysis on the tweets are more neutral or positive. So it also serves as an indicator of people's openness after seeing what has been done. And of course, more people also start to walk. There are 5 times more pedestrians during the festival month, and more people start to use public transport, thus saving commuters time also. And yeah, these are some of the key impacts that were noticed. So Johannesburg's festival legacy continued to the 2017 Kaohsiung Festival. One of the key outputs of the EcoMobility World Festival and Congress in Kaohsiung was the Kaohsiung Strategies for the Future of Urban Mobility. And these strategies are based on the shared mobility principles, which lay out important strategies for local governments as they plan for the future of urban mobility. And why are we talking about this is many strategies that are included here on the left, if you can see them, the 12 strategies here, they resonate with what Joburg City has experienced or learned as they prepare for the festival, and it also resonates with other two cities even as they have experienced the festival. So one key thing here is the first key thing here is vision and leadership. The need for city leaders to have a vision and strong leadership to make tough decisions in order to change a paradigm towards a zero emission and people-centered transportation future. As we can see here in strategies 12, preparing our local governments for mobility of the future. It is too late to respond or solve problems only when it appears. So that's the first one. The second one is that people will not accept changes easily. So it is really important to consult, to engage with people, partner with residents, business people, and sometimes even with explanation, people may not be able to understand easily why are you even doing this, or they just remain unconvinced because of their love for cars or their love for the traditional status quo lifestyle. So it's very important to explain with them through another way, so to let them visualize, to allow them to see, to experience the benefits of eco-mobility, to inspire wider change. And this is needed to also slowly change mindsets of people, and that can be also seen in one of the strategies, engaging with stakeholders. Last one was the last one is long-term interventions. How cities implement change is also important, because transport interventions are important for long-lasting change. This could be done through city design, how we plan our cities and their mobility together. It can also be done with economic instruments supporting fair user fees, or it can be done with good infrastructure, so that prioritizes people over vehicles. A combination of these kind of policies, instruments can disincentivize driving, but encourage and nudge people to choose more eco-mobile travel modes. So finally, the key here is that the festival was a transformative project for Johannesburg. It started a transformation through an impactful project, and it created conversations and demonstrated change, and how city can actually host something like this, even though it's a large scale project. But what was noticed by us was that how local governments, actually the city officials themselves, are so willing to learn, to be open about change, and in this process of learning, they have learned how to deal not just with mobility interventions, which are more hardware related stuff, but how to deal with people, which is even more challenging. But they have managed to work with both of them in a very nuanced manner, and yeah, so which is why they could manage this entire festival. So if you are more interested to learn about the cultural strategies, you can read them online. We have them available in 6 languages. Or if you are more interested to learn about Johannesburg Festival, you can also find them online. There are some documentations that are really interesting for you to learn more also. Yeah, so with this, I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy for any questions coming up.
Thank you, Beatrice, for the interesting presentation. And to be fair with all the other speakers, I would ask you a tough question as well. And it's about, because all the results that you gave us were like immediately after the festival. So I was wondering if you could share with us since there is no consistency in the EcoMobility Festival, if you could share with us some of the, let's say, if there were any long-term or middle-term outcomes from the festival. And it could be maybe not in, I don't know if there was in Johannesburg a follow-up, but maybe from Suwon, since enough time has been passed, or from Kaohsiung, or yeah, from any of the festivals.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I'm sure there are, because the first thing that I can see throughout these three festivals is, like what I say in the concluding message, is how this festival have trained city government, city departments to work with each other, because many city departments, they work in silos. But when you want to plan for a festival, because it involves infrastructural change, it involves talking to community, it involves urban planning department, or maybe mobility department, and social department. It depends on city to city, but in general, it involves different departments. So in order for it to be successful, it cannot be just done in silo, one department heading it all, because it does not work. Which is why the mayor actually had to lead all these three or even more departments, basically almost the entire city department, to work together horizontally. This is what we call so-called horizontal integration when they prepare for that. And like Suwon, what they have is that even after the festival, they have this EcoMobility team that is still here today. So the EcoMobility Bureau, they are in charge of creating walking and cycling environment. So everything related to EcoMobility, they are the ones coordinating together with other city bureaus. So like reducing the possibility of working in silos. I think that's one. And with Johannesburg, is that because we can see there are some infrastructure change that was done, but there was also a change in leadership, in the city leadership. I think it was in 2016. So some of the things was reversed, but it picked up the momentum again last year, especially looking at the corridors of freedom master plan, which is based on TOD. So we did not go back ever since 2018, but we have heard that some of the private corporations are the one working with the city to encourage this, pushing this forward. So I think these are the two main things that we can see how the festival actually brought forward towards like midterm and even longer term changes by really training the mentality of people who are planning it, the way they work, and also pushing it forward after the conversation has been created, really implementing them with real infrastructure implementation or long-term plan. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then I will hand over to Yichen, so that and then so because I don't want to monopolize the conversation, and we have a good number of questions. Over to you, Yichen.
Okay, thank you very much to me, and thank you all the speakers for your interesting perspectives, stories of organizing Open Street and Critical Mass, and also EcoMobility World Festival. Before we continue with the Q&A session, we would like to know actually from the audience if your city has organized such event. So as screen, you can actually see the poll, and we will encourage you to take part, and we will wait for 1 minute to see the result. And at the same time, we will also encourage you to type in your questions in the question section on the side control bar. Again, please keep the questions to the point, and we can move through them easily. And also not forget to mention to whom your question is addressed to. Okay. Yeah, we are collecting the responses, and we'll wait for another probably 20 seconds. Okay, now I will close the poll and everyone can see the result. Yeah, that's actually very interesting for us to know. And now we have some questions throughout the webinar, and I can address them to the speakers. So as you can see also in the question session, actually, our speakers have already answered some of them, but I think it will still be very interesting to address some of them to all the audience. The first one would be to Rebecca from Sunny. How did you convince the city administration to be on your side? Because many cities are not actually leaning towards active mobility. Rebecca?
Okay, so this one, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, was a key part of our journey. Yeah, in the beginning phases, the founder of OpenStreets Cape Town, Marcella, spent a lot of time lobbying and networking, drinking a lot of coffee, basically, and kind of building up connections in Cape Town with people who had similar goals. So people who wanted to see safer environments for cycling and better public spaces. And then through this networking, it created an opportunity to present the concept of open streets to the mayor's office. And I think the focus for presenting was on highlighting how open streets could help them to fulfill some of the city's objectives. And specifically in Cape Town, the city's strategic objectives include creating a more inclusive, safe and caring city, and open streets is a really practical and tangible way to do that. So it was about looking at the city's priorities and how what we wanted to do could connect with helping the city to reach those objectives.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I think, yeah, of course, it's very important to involve the cities. Actually, related to this question, there's one question to Cypring. Also, what is the involvement of the City of Nairobi administration in critical mass events? Cypring? Would you like to
thank
answer?
you.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for the question. So far, the involvement of the city government of Nairobi has been minimal, in part because we haven't reached out as much as we should, but also because we are trying to find a better balance on what kind of partnership we want with the city government, because we've had several events with them, and just a few things that we need to tweak here and there, but they're very receptive towards critical mass. Whenever we request for help, they've been very responsive. So I think it's in part us as critical mass organizers, and also just restructuring a few things, but they've been very responsive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very interesting to know. Actually, there's also one more specific question to Cypring. Actually, when you plan for the critical mass events, beforehand do you also plan that event beforehand with the traffic police, as you mentioned in your presentation? And instead of stopping the entire traffic, maybe they can just block one lane for the cyclists that entire day for bicycles. Do you have any comments on that?
So we try and not do that, because our goal is to help cyclists gain confidence on the road and be able to use the road as they would normally do on a normal day. So if we block the whole day, let's say one lane, that is a false experience that we are giving them. We want them to know that, it is dangerous to be on the road, and we want them to feel like after a critical mass event, they will know what to do in case, let's say, a public transport vehicle maneuvers the wrong way, or a pedestrian jumps on the street, unexpectedly. So we want to limit the help that we get, so that people can be more confident on the road. We rely mostly on the marshals we have, because they are on bicycles, so they will react the way a normal commuter would react on a bicycle. But if we have, let's say, police or county traffic marshals stopping all the traffic for us, or stopping traffic the whole day, that is one day every month where we will be a nuisance to other road users, and we try not to, because we go to different neighborhoods. We don't just limit ourselves in one neighborhood, and we want to coexist. And yeah.
But actually, Cyber, on this side, actually, we are trying, for instance, like because you mentioned that there's actually a lack of cycling infrastructure, but through the critical mass, we actually want to encourage the city to actually to build dedicated bike lanes and also cycling friendly infrastructure. I thought that's the idea behind it, or is it?
Yes, there are several ideas behind critical mass. So it's to get more people to start cycling, but it also to make the government more aware of cyclists existence, because it's unfortunate that it's been assumed that there are no cyclists in Nairobi, or a handful of cyclists. So by them seeing us in our masses, then they start changing how they view cycling. Um, and it has started working with the county government. The city government of Nairobi has now started designing some infrastructure, albeit not the best design, but it started to click somewhere that these people actually exist, and they're not just like 4% somewhere. So with our numbers, we are starting to see some designs somewhere. Some roads have started having both footpaths and cycle tracks being implemented, but previously, no roads had any cycle tracks. Very few, if any.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Actually, this also, of course, involves changing the mindset and also behaviors of the people living there. Now, I've got a question also for Beatrice and Rebecca. The attendee asked, virtual reality is also an exciting technology, moreover remarkably well matured in South Africa. Did you consider to use it as a promotional or transformative experience of a car-free day, a car-free city, to market walkability and cyclability like the whole year round? Would you like to comment, Beatrice? Hello? Or Rebecca, would you also like to comment?
Hi, sorry, I think I was unmuted. But um, you meant like having a virtual reality thing for the whole.
Yeah.
Okay. I have seen some of this done, but I think it was done more for with visualizing air quality in a city that is like when you wear the virtual reality gadgets, you can really see the air pollution particles, and that was how they approach having a healthier and alternative mobility means, which is walking and cycling through air quality and health approach. So I think that is also a very good way to approach that, because it connects to people even more when they see the hate, or this is a betterment, and we are actually improving like air quality, which is also a very serious problem in many metropolitans in Africa. So I think that is a good idea to do that.
Good. Interesting. And Rebecca, would you like to comment also on that aspect?
It sounds amazing. Thank you. Yes, I just saw the question. We definitely haven't really considered this before. I mean, we've spoken about something a bit similar, but not specifically using that kind of tech. And I would be very interested to hear more. So if there's any information or opportunities for how we could include that, then please get in touch.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. And then here is another question probably to all the speakers, because we mentioned all the Open Streets Critical Mass and also EcoMobility World Festival, which are all like temporary or transitional experiments. And so the audience also asked like other events that you guys mentioned translated into any permanent shifts to support walking and cycling. And yeah, probably we can go one by one. Rebecca. So it's about
So I would have, I'd like to agree with Cyprien's comment about, wanting to do activities that are, connected to an everyday experience. And what we've seen with the Open Streets Days is that it's a really powerful way to attract people's attention and to, get people reimagining and to seeing a kind of alternative potential for streets, and hosting the Open Streets Days, because it's something that kind of suspends reality, creates a lot of attention and publicity, but in terms of impact, it's the other activities where, organizing bike buses and doing more regular activities that have real impact for showing people to make just everyday changes.
Thank you, Rebecca. Can I, Cyprien, would you also like to add upon your previous points on this point?
Sorry, you may have to repeat your question.
The audience asked other events that you mentioned, like for instance, critical mass, they can be translated into permanent shifts to support walking and cycling in the cities.
Of course, for critical mass, I certainly think it can be translated to something more regular. We have it every last Saturday of the month. And we want the idea behind critical mass to be something that people can carry with them throughout the week, throughout the month, not just once a month. We want to see several groups of people gathering together and going for a group ride. That way, the more people see cyclists on the road, the more they are aware of our existence, and also more conscious how they drive, or so even pedestrians walk. So yeah, I feel like it's something that can translate throughout the month, not just once every Saturday.
Yeah, thank you. And I think you've also answered these questions in the question session. So attendees, you can also take a look at this question section box. And Beatrice, would you also like to comment on this?
I think to sustain like a real long-term change, it is important to, aside from, because all these events brings awareness, but to really sustain the momentum, city government has to be involved in really providing good infrastructure so that people will be more attracted to really walk and cycle. And it's not just leisure walking or cycling, but really using it as a daily mode when they travel to work or commute to work. So infrastructure design and really influencing how cities are being planned as a long-term thing. I think that is really important to really sustain such change. And it is not easy, because when you talk about long-term change, it takes more commitment, effort, investments, and resources when we do that. But it is really important if, let's say, we want to see a real tangible benefit and that people are really shifting, and because you want to break the perception of only poor people cycle and only poor people walk. So you really need to make the environment, the walking and cycling environment, really attractive, that people will not see it as, oh, this is just for the less fortunate people, but this is a place for everyone. Yeah, so I think that's really important. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you all the speakers. I think we are running a little bit out of time. For the participants, if you have more questions, you can of course ask via email or online, and we will also collect all the questions, and we will also send around the answers via the follow-up email. To me, can I hand over back to you?
Yes, so thank you very much. And there are so many different questions, so we can see that there is a lot of interest around this topic. And as Icha has mentioned, feel free to send in more questions, and we will try to follow up afterwards with you. Also, there was a lot of call for partnerships or for even exchange, so let us know if you're interested, if you can contribute with the virtual reality or information about virtual reality, or how to turn this temporary activities into insight on how to turn temporary activities into a more permanent shift, or even just to exchange your experience and see if your type of event that might be different in your region then could be of interest, and could be also could become a different model to create a way to reimagine cities. Some of the few takeaways apart from partnerships today, there was also the importance of vision and leadership. So this is a call to all the city representatives and any other institution to take no motorized transport on board. We heard that no motorized transport is also for the it's a daily mode of transport for poor people. These type of events are creating a shift in the and maybe creating an event for elitists, but as they grow bigger and bigger, they also manage to reach informal settlements or the everyday man or woman. And then there is again a call for infrastructure as well to make it safer for everyone. We hope that there is a clear gap. So we hope that with all the different activities, then this gap will be closed by bottom-up approach and also top-down approach. So before we close, I wanted to share with you, since tomorrow is also International Women's Day, a resource from the TUMI initiative that will be launched tomorrow. And that's the Remarkable Women in Transport. Coincidentally, today all the panelists were female, so that was a nice coincidence as well. Since and this publication it's a joint effort of the TUMI initiative, coordinated by GIZ, introducing the great and inspiring diversity of women working in transportation, and for better mobility. And I would encourage you to check the website womenmobilize.org publications, and there are a lot of different resources on gender and mobility, and at the same time also the TUMI initiative official website, which is transformative-mobility.org. And to close, thank you very much, everyone, for your time. I know that and also apologies for those that have raised their hands. Unfortunately, the time, despite having almost allocated a half an hour to questions, we haven't exhausted all of them, and there was no time, unfortunately, to give you the floor. But let's keep the conversation going. And thank you also to all our esteemed experts and speakers, and again for everyone for participating. If you want to share anything with us or any questions after this webinar, then these are our contact details for specifically for the webinars. TUMI-network@ecla.org, and the recording will be made available a few days after, in a few days. So Thank you everyone, and for your attendance, for your questions, for your interest, and I hope to see your attendance also to the next TUMI webinar.